Welcome back to GEMS Podcast. I'm your host, Genesis Amaris Kemp, and with me today is Michael Buzinski. And here's a bit about Michael. He's the president and CMO of Buzzworthy Website Marketing, is a lifelong entrepreneur, digital marketing thought leader, and best-selling author, dubbed a visionary marketer by the American Marketing Association. Michael's sole mission is to help entrepreneurs avoid the time drain and frustration and of managing profitable digital marketing campaigns. Buzz, as most call him, has simplified digital marketing success with the rule of 26 and is on a mission to double the website revenue of service-centric businesses across America. And today we're going to unpack, are websites dead? Do small businesses even need a website? And what does your online presence look like? Then you'll find out why he is leading with the rule of 26. So without further ado, please welcome Michael Buzinski, aka Buzz, to GEMS Podcast.
Hey, how's it going, Genesis?
It's going well. So, Michael, let's just dive in, or should I call you Buzz?
Buzz is great.
So let's just dive into this powerful segment because I'm sure the listeners are eager to know about websites because now people do everything on their phone. So does it make sense to have an app or does it make sense to have a website?
Well, if you would have asked me about 10 years ago, I would have told you that the future was in apps. Everybody seemed to be wanting an app. And then came the Internet of Things, and which allowed people to have websites, mobile friendly, mobile responsive websites that did things just like apps. And the great thing about that is that now you're not hidden behind a firewall, if you will, in app stores for Android and for iPhone. You don't have to maintain all of these apps because they're very time consuming to maintain. There's lots of back end stuff that you have to deal with. So in today's realm, websites are more powerful than ever. Some would have told you just a few years ago, probably maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that Facebook and Instagram and the social media platforms were going to replace websites. But now we see today, absolutely not, because we don't own our profiles on social media. And if you don't own that social media profile, that means you don't own your audience. In a website, you do. You own your site. You can do whatever you want with that site. If Facebook decides to do what they've been doing for the last 15 years, is just consistently change it to benefit them more, at some point, it's not going to be profitable for you to be there. And if, say, you want to shift from Facebook to Instagram or Instagram to Pinterest, if you don't have a website to base everything off of, you're having to start from scratch. And that's why it's so important for small businesses, especially, to have actively and accurately portrayed websites on the internet.
Because it seems like having your own website, you control your assets and you're not a liability versus you using another platform like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and etc. And one of the prime examples that we could talk about is whenever social media went down, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, people who do their businesses online and via those platforms, they had no access to their content, their clients, or etc., because the sites were down.
Exactly. And let's go one step further. Let's say that Facebook gets sanctioned. They're under a lot of scrutiny right now, and they just completely shut down. So not only did you get, if they have an interruption, that's one thing, but if they just disappear, you disappear from the internet, right? And then another thing is that 68% of all consumers start their buying process or their buying journey on search engines. 2/3 of all, 2 out of 3 purchases start with a search query. They don't search social media. They're searching on search engines. So if you don't have a website, you're not going to be able to show up because the search engines only search for websites.
So let's dive a little bit deeper there regarding search engines, because if someone has a website, but maybe their website is not prevalent or high up on that hierarchy in search engines, then are they really even being relevant? Because let's be honest, I use Google sometimes for my search engine, or maybe Safari, but I'm not going to go thumbing through pages of information to find you and your business. Number one, that's not a good use of my time. And if you are a solopreneur and you don't have that VA, it's like your time is very valuable. So how can we dive in a little bit deeper there and make it make sense for some of these solopreneurs and small business owners?
So the search, 95% of all websites will fail to be listed on the first page. 99% of all business owners pay attention to their search engine marketing. So there's a lot of opportunity there. That means that 5% of the folks are getting all that 68% of the business, because you're correct. Only 2% of all users get past the first page on Google. So for a solopreneur, we're not necessarily looking, especially if they're a local business. So their clientele are very local to them, maybe a city or a county. They don't necessarily need to worry about the 10 listings that are below the maps, right? So you have the ads at the top, then usually you have, right now you have snippets. The snippets are part of what we call schema. And that's where your content marketing goes. And we can talk about that later. Then there's the maps. And so maps are mainly used, like you were saying, on your mobile phone. And you can optimize specifically for maps. It's called local SEO. And if you optimize your Google My Business page, which is what maps feed off of, you have a much better chance of getting calls and more interest and traffic to your website than if you just focused on the 10 listings below. Because those 10 listings below, a lot of those are, especially if you're a common service, like say a medical service or a common leisure service, then you're competing a lot of times with national brands. And so if you can't, if you don't have the time or the resources to compete there, you definitely want to be competing in the maps, because 90% of all people who click on a location in maps visit or contact that company within 24 hours.
Wow, that's incredible metrics there, Mike, Buzz. And then let's talk about the maps part, because what I learned recently from interviewing somebody who is a subject matter expert when it comes to local SEO is that if you don't have a quote unquote brick and mortar or place for your business to use on Google My Business or business ads, then you're not going to be searchable on maps. And I thought that maybe if someone had like a home business, that they could use their home address, but you actually need to have something with signage and a door, apparently.
Actually, no, you don't. I hate to contradict another expert, but you do not, and this is great for home-based businesses. You do not have to list your home on Google My Business to have a listing on Google My Business.
Oh, well, you could hide it. I think she mentioned hiding it too, or something.
I would do better than that. Hiding it, yeah, I mean, it's one way to doing it. It's not how I would do it. They actually have listings without addresses. They're online services, and then you identify the area that you serve. So I have a hosting company, okay, that's separate from my marketing company. It has no address. Okay. So, but we go in and we list it as an online business, and then we give it a service area. So I can say, well, we service companies all over across the United States. They don't want to see that. They want to say, are you servicing Chicago area, the St. Louis area, Dallas, LA, New York? And you can put as many as you want in there. And then that way, if anybody's searching on maps for an online type of service, or maybe a software as a service, you can still be found. You just have to optimize for Google My Business. Still, you still need to, play with your Google My Business page and keep working that. But I always say, don't try to fool Google. Use Google the way Google likes to be used, right? And so this is kind of recent, so it might be just something that they had missed. So I'm not discounting their expertise. I'm just saying that there is a way for you to list without having an address.
And that's a really valid point, because so many people have transitioned their businesses online, especially during the pandemic. So thank you for adding that and for clearing it up, so they could list online, put their service locations, the areas that they service. But in order to have Google My Business, do they actually have to have a LLC or maybe a DBA, or can you just, anyone can create one?
Pretty much anyone can create one, for sure. But if you're going to do business, you definitely want to make sure that you have your business license in place and all your liability insurance and all that stuff. I would definitely not try to work with strangers without a business license, for sure. Like that's something that can get you in trouble, especially with taxes and whatnot. I would, if you're talking about, like, should you have a LLC or a sole proprietorship or an S corp or something like that, I would bring on an accountant that can tell you all the differences there. I know that, having an LLC is super easy in the United States, and being able to file as an S corp gives you a lot of benefits and some protections as well. So you can separate your business from your personal property.
Yeah, those are really great points. And I always encourage people, as you are building up in business, build out your dream team. Have an accountant, have an attorney that you could go to make sure that you have proper documentations in place, whether it's an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, whether it's a non-compete, whether it's any form of contracts or whatnot, just to really protect you as an individual, but also protect your assets. Because when money gets involved, you're actually going down a slippery, slimy slope, especially if people see you as a prey versus a predator. So as we dive back into this segment on websites and marketing and etc., when do you feel that people should really put money into their website? Because some people create a generic website and it works for them. But as you begin to grow and scale, I think that you need to make some technology advancements when it comes to your website.
I would agree that, your website is, it is as much a part of a business as brick and mortar is. And brick and mortar businesses businesses that have locations need the websites just as much as those who are just online or remote, as you say. And the time to invest is the time that the time that you have the money to do it, right? I never tell people to try to learn website development, right? That's not the best use of your time. But if you don't have the money to do it, that's a different story. My company has now created a way for people to get professional WordPress websites that they can manage themselves for $100. I mean, so I'm trying to take away all of the excuses of not having a professional website. So, and if you can't afford the $100 a month to have a website, you might not be ready to be in business, because you haven't created enough cash flow to even pay the rent, because websites are rent, right? Like, you have to have it. We just talked about the importance of having them. And if you don't have one, you're a word of mouth business. You're really more just a hobby, right? And that's fine. Or a lifestyle business that's working on strictly word of mouth and referrals. But if you want to scale your business predictably, you have to have something to leverage your message 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, doesn't take vacation, doesn't take sick days, doesn't ask for a raise, doesn't need benefits, all of the things working for you when you're sleeping, taking care of your kids, taking care of other clients, all those things. That's what a website is. It's your salesperson. And if you have everything pointing there and it is telling your story convincingly enough for people to take action, you are leveraging something huge.
Make it make sense is what I tell people. It should be your go-to spot, and it should be your signature in a sense, because it signifies what you're doing in your respective field. It shows your visibility, it shows your online presence, and it should summarize everything about you, professionally. And it's like your business card in a sense. So at least invest in what you are willing to see a ROI on, return on investment. And now, Buzz, I want to kind of dive into the rule of 26, unless you want to add any more value regarding marketing, because there's so much that you could talk about when it comes to website and marketing and just making it work like a well-oiled machine.
Well, I think that the rule of 26 is the next step, right? Once you've built a website, now you have to figure out how to monetize it. And the rule of 26 is a tool to help you stay focused, because we're in the land of shiny new objects. And as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for that competitive edge. What's going to help me get the most sales for my company month to month, right? And we already established that a website is one of those key elements. But once you have one, how do you leverage it like we talked about? And that's where the rule of 26 is. And so I wrote this book called The Rule of 26. And this particular one is for service-based businesses. And it's 3 steps to doubling website revenue. And really what it does is it boils down your actions to 3. And I'll back up just a hair. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, are what we use in marketing to understand whether or not our website is producing. Okay. And they just shy of revenue. Problem is that there are companies out there like HubSpot who will tell you there's 38 KPIs to keep track of. Shopify, 73. I don't know about you, but I'm a marketer. I've been in this business for a long time. I do not want to be tracking 38 or even 73 KPIs to figure out whether or not my website's working. So I sought out to simplify this to where it's not confusing for a business owner and it's easy for us to use to navigate our successes with our clients. And so the rule of 26 states that if you increase the unique traffic to your website by 26%, the conversion rate of those visitors by 26%, and the average revenue per client by 26%, you will double the revenue of your website. Now, I do go through folks who don't have any traffic or don't have any conversions and where to start from that. But those with some traffic and maybe 1 or 2 conversions, that's great. And the thing is if 1 becomes 2, that's twice as many, and you get to do it over again. And you continue to do that until you're getting the amount of sales that you can reasonably take on without, your customer service suffering. So it's repeatable, it's predictable. You have the formula. And that's really what the Rule 26 is all about. And the book goes through all of the tactics to increase each of those KPIs by 26%.
So, Buzz, how did you come up with 26% in those 3 different areas?
I first looked for KPIs that directly moved the revenue needle, because as small business owners, we really only care about one thing: revenue, right? Revenue is what keeps our business alive. Without it, there is no business, right? And so I wanted KPIs that really resonated with my clients and should resonate with any business owner. Okay. And so then it was a matter of, what is the goal? Right? So having a tool that doesn't have a purpose, right? And the purpose is usually towards a goal, then we're kind of lost, right? And I can just say, yeah, use these. And then you're like, okay, I'll arbitrarily use this. I don't know if it's working or not. So everybody wants to double their sales. So I took those 3 and did the math and found out that 26% across the 3 of them actually doubled. I started with 25%. Actually, I was like, I don't want it to be so much. Like, I don't want it to be where you have to double your traffic to double your sales. I mean, that's hard comparatively, right? But just 26%, those are incremental changes in 3 key elements, right? And that average revenue per client sometimes doesn't have anything to do with your website at all. So now we have actionable steps that are going to increase revenue immediately. Because you do step one, you have increased, if you have any percentage of conversions from your website, you increase any of them by 26%, you're going to get 26% more revenue coming from your website. The second one is now going to bring you up to 52%. But that last one's going to give you that leverage, and it's going to give you a compounded output of 100% more, or doubling the sales from your website. And that is something that's tangible. And that's why I used it.
Oh, nice. Okay, so there was really no other rhyme and reason except you testing it out. Did you put it in beta testing with some of your clients before you came up with the definition of the rule of 26?
Well, it came from my experience. I've had an award-winning SEO concept or methodology for many years, over, let's see, now we're looking at 11 years now. It's called digital engagement optimization. And so we looked at some of the KPIs that we saw there, where we saw the successes coming from. And from that, and my 30 years experience in marketing, I understood that we really needed to, one, simplify it, but I understood all of the KPIs out there already. So it was easy for me to boil it down to maybe a dozen at first, and then keep going. Like, what does it really matter? Like, a lot of people talk about bounce rates or sessions or page views. All of these things are important, but none of them actually move the revenue needle, because you have to have traffic. You must be able to convert. Okay. Those are the two things that must happen. And the leverage of being able to get more value out of each of your perfect clients is something that allows you to get more without actually having to always produce more. So just from my experience, that's where that's how I was able to boil that down. It's math driven. There's no beta to it. You do these things, it happens. And so the tactics I put in there are tactics that we've used over the what we've done, 800 companies was actually served. We've built over 1,200 websites. So all of that experience and all of the things that we've done to those went into a lot of the tactics that I outlined here, that are mostly do-it-yourself tactics. And then also showing you how to approach having other people to do some of those tactics for you as well.
Okay, nice. And thank you so much for elaborating on that, Buzz. And then whenever you think about the conversion rates and the time spent on websites, do you ever look at the duration that people spend on websites and factor that in? Because do you feel like if somebody spends longer on a website, 10 minutes versus 5 minutes, or 30 minutes versus the 10 minutes, that it will definitely help convert them over to purchasing?
Well, the average the average time spent on a website is usually under 2. Yeah, it's actually under a minute. I don't know what the up to date is, so I don't want to misquote the actual statistic. If you have somebody on your website for 30 minutes and they don't convert, they're not a client. Not all traffic is qualified traffic. And so we use some of those KPIs when deciding what to do in looking at specifically conversion rate optimization, right? And traffic has the same way. It's like, what kind of traffic is it? Repeating traffic versus unique traffic, all of those things, right? So my philosophy is to get them to click on something fast, right? So there's software out there called, one of them, a provider is called Hotjar, and it's a heat map for your website. Hotjar.com is free up to a certain usage, but usually up to that usage for small businesses enough for them to understand how well their websites are working. And it allows you to see how far down the page are they going? Are they stopping and reading? What are they skipping over? What are they clicking on? What are the hot spots in the graphics that people are looking at and staying there? Those types of things. There's even option to track people's eye movement on the screen if they have their camera active, those types of things, right? All of that going to the fact that you have to make your website about your client. So the only reason we're tracking how long they've been there, where they're clicking, where they're looking, is because we need to understand our potential client, and we need to understand what they tune into and what they tune out of. Because without that information, we don't know what to tweak. And we want to tweak that to where we're engaging in their pursuit of either solving a problem or attaining a dream. Because as a service-based business, those are the only two things you do, right? You either solve a problem or or attain a dream. So you have to then make that happen for that user. Oh, you understand my problem. You have an awesome solution for it, and you are trustworthy. I will engage with you now.
Okay. And wow, that was shocking to learn that it's less than 2 minutes approximately. I had no idea. And then last question before we wind down, do you think that having personalized videos on your website drives the conversion?
It can help. If you're telling a story, it's much better to have videos, but be cognizant of how your videos are being played, right? Don't have them automatically playing with the sound on. Okay. Because I don't know about you, but as a user, I hate that. And most users do too, especially if they have their speakers up too loud. Boom. Oh, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go back. They're like, no, 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 no. I don't want that. Right. And make them short, 1-2 minutes tops. If you can get your message in 30 seconds, use 30 seconds and then give them a call to action after that 30 seconds. If it takes a minute, that's fine, but get to the point. I said 2 minutes is for good conversions. Like a person converting is usually there for 2 minutes, right? But most of your folks are going to be there less than 30 seconds, and you have less than 3 seconds to grab their attention.
Wow, lots of metrics, lots of learning. So, Buzz, I want you to leave the listeners and the viewers with a call to action for this segment, and then close us out by letting them know how they could connect with you on your website and where you hang out on social media.
Sounds great. Well, I'm going to combine the first two and say your call to action is to get yourself a copy of The Rule of 26. It is so easy. And the ebook's only $10. And I'll tell you what, if you get the ebook and email me at buzz@buzzworthy.biz with a copy of your download, I will send you a signed paperback copy for absolutely free. So to do that, you need to go to www.ruleof26.com. That will have the links to buying the paperback or the ebook. And if you want to learn more about my company, Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing, please check us out at buzzworthy.biz. That's BUZZWORTHY.biz.
Amazing. And then are y'all on social media?
Oh yeah, social media. Now social media. So I'm on LinkedIn mainly. If you can find me at Michael Buzinski on LinkedIn. I do most of my posts there. We are also You Are Buzzworthy on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and Buzzworthy Marketing it's at Buzzworthy Marketing on Instagram.
And there you have it, listeners and viewers. You learned how to make sure you have an online presence with a website. You can have, your website. If you don't have one, it's time for you to get one so you could stay relevant and people could know how to really connect with you. So until we chat next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day. Go out and look for ways that you can really solidify how you are leaving your imprint and driving an impact in the world today. Subscribe and share this podcast segment with family members and friends who are on 40 plus platforms, and follow us on YouTube at Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp for all things video content. Until we chat next time, ciao.